Hey everyone, what's up? Johnny Glock here. Video I'm shooting today is about the Gen 4 and the Gen 3. Some differences about them. Actually, it's coming from a completely different perspective because they're both great guns. The major differences in what you'll see and what you always hear about on the internet is the difference in between the trigger bar that has the bump on the vertical extension, or the dimple, or the shark's fin, or whatever you want to call it. This is this is what I'm referring to right here, this part, and that dimple that sticks out right there. Okay, so everyone can see that, and I know most people know what it is already. And the Gen 3 bar does not have that. It's flat right there. The fact that that is what causes a bunch of trigger drag is complete malarkey. I know there's an internet video that's been circulating, and that happens every once in a while. And you know, for that person's particular gun, that may have been the case. These are stamped pieces. There's irregularities on them. There's burrs. There's Mars. It needs detooled. It needs all kind of work when you get them. That's why, you know, most when you get these from Glock, they're rough stamped, and that's, you're supposed to shoot them and shoot them and shoot them and shoot them and wear them out, and then all of a sudden you get like a really nice trigger pull after years of shooting. And that's what the polishing does. So the polishing actually mimics what, you know, thousands of rounds of shooting would do in order to smooth the two parts out that are rubbing off each other. Actually 4 parts. So the dot on the vertical extension, the dimple, and what that does is it actually helps keep the bar tracking straighter in the rear. And that's a very important thing, because that has a lot to do with the way your striker and sear line up, the cruciform and kick up, and the sear line up, and the striker line up rather. And when it drops, if it's a nice clean angle, you get a nice really good feeling. If it's skewed or bucking up or something like that, you'll get like a nasty kind of hanging feeling. But in the same regards, you know, a lot of times you'll have an off angle just with the way the sear is cut, and it starts to dig into the striker lug face, and you'll get this line that appears across the back of your striker lug face, and we've talked about that before too. I can tell you this: in the last year, Glock has switched from what used to be called a 2-dot bar in the Gen 4. They have changed that to what is now referred to as the 3600-1 bar. And I don't know if you're actually going to be able to see that stamping right there. I'll do my best. There we go. 3600-1. I don't have any of the older bars on me right here. However, I'll show you a Gen 3 bar, which has just a dot pressed into the top of it right there. The Gen 4 earlier bars just had another dot stamped right about there, so they were called 2 dots. Now, you know, what people don't understand is, you know, they're not going to change something unless there's a reason for it. Glock calls these upgrades. I don't want to say they're called recalls, but they're definitely changes that need done to that platform for a reason. Everyone says keep your Glock stock, and then you get all, and then of course if you're going to change the trigger group out, you have the majority of trigger companies using Gen 3 bars for every single trigger they make, because it's kind of like it's easy, let's put it that way, instead of having 2 different bars in stock and being able to find out what's going on in between the two, and then, you know, actually spending some time in R&D to get things working. Also, I do have the old housings for the Gen 4s. The old housings used to look like this, so there's no demarcation there. It's a totally different type of polymer. And now the new ones have this kind of triangle, have that kind of like a hazard symbol cut into them, and the number 5357 on them. It's a totally different feeling type of polymer. As you can see, there's 3 dots on that. I mean, it's just a slight differences, but you know, if you're really going to you know, nail a trigger and really want to build them, you know, specifically for the gun, you know, Glock did that for a reason. So there's probably a reason why you want to have a Gen 4 bar in your Gen 4 gun. And I can tell you one of the reasons that I've heard is over higher round counts, the old 2-dot bars were dropping the striker on reset, which means the slight, you know, the when the gun comes back into cycle like this and goes right about there to pick up the striker lug face again, as you can see in the back, it drops it and you get a boom, you get a burst fire. If the gun isn't completely safe, that burst fire could go into full auto. And that's never a good idea, especially because 65% of Glock's market is law enforcement, and pretty much, you know, what law enforcement needs, Glock does. So there's reasons for all this stuff, and to just throw a Gen 3 bar in a Gen 4 gun is kind of taking the easy way out. Now, I'm really hesitant to show some of this stuff because it does let the cat out of the bag in a sense. But still, I don't know if anyone's going to be able to do anything about it. So I'm going to show you something right now. Oh, maybe I'll do it like this. I won't show you exactly. Okay, so this is for the big guns. It's stamped 40, wait, let me turn it this way. 4256-3. That's the smooth face for the 10s and 45s. It always has, since day one, had that dimple on there. This dimple on the vertical extension is nothing new for Glock. It's not new. It's new to the standard platform, but not to the bigger caliber. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you, I'm going to keep the other parts of these triggers covered. At least I'm going to try to. And I'm going to show you the radiuses on the back of them, and you're going to see, if you pay if you pay some I wasn't even there, you're going to see, if you pay some attention to these, it's kind of hard, it's like holding a deck of cards or something, because I'm trying to get them lined up properly. Let's see if I can just slide them up into the, alright, here we go, yeah. So check this out. Those three radiuses are completely different. I'm going to try to bring them a little bit closer. There we go. Bend them down, bend them like this. Okay. One of these is the 45, one of them is a Gen 3, and one of them is a Gen 4. And even if they're covered up, I can tell you which one is which, but in order to keep half the mystery there and keep people kind of on their toes, I'm not going to say which is which, because it does make a huge difference in the way you build triggers. Alright, I'm going to come back out. So, the break of not the break feel, but the break travel and resistance is predicated on two things, and that is spring tension and connector angle. Well, I'm sorry, three things. I meant, when I said two things, I was meaning more like the relationship between the connector and the radius of the bar that I just showed you. So basically, it is three things. It's striker, it's springs, and then it is, and you've seen this video before, it's the geometry of the connector. And now, as I just showed you with three different bars, what you would think all these guns are 5.5 fixed. That's what they leave the factory stating, but I've stated this before. I've been in the factory, all right? They can be anywhere from, I think, 4.3 or 4.9 to 6.2, and they're considered 5.5 fixed because it's a production gun, and that's just the way it goes. You can take out, anyone that's been to a gun store and knows, or been to a gun show, you can pull the triggers on 5 different 19s, and they're all going to feel different. And that's because of the production gun, the mass manufacturing and stuff like that. There's going to be nuances that are different. So, the brake itself comes from the way the sear and the striker lug face disconnect. And so there's two, like I said, there's the semi-rolling, the rolling, and then the whatever it is, the 1911 style, like the real quick tactical one. And a true rolling brake, should pick up right away. It's almost what the Evo does. There's no first stage bump, but there's still stacking with the Evo. So you're going like, maybe it goes from 2 pounds to 3 to 3.25 to 3.5 brake, or depending on what kind of spring you have in there. When you put that spring on there, when you put the scale on there, you're going to see that scale track up for stacking tension and stuff like that. A real rolling brake, in my estimation, is that you start pulling it stays at 2 pounds and it breaks at 2 pounds. It doesn't go up, 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 up and break. The semi-rolling is kind of the one we just talked about right there, where you get a little bit of poundage. Starts at 3, maybe only half a pound, I would say, for real. You don't want to be really climbing. And then the tactical brake should be just what it is. It should feel like a hammer mimic. You should basically put your finger on there, and then, typically for a striker fired gun, you're going to have striker sear. You have sear and striker movement, taking that back into cock and dropping it. But there's a way to design it so that you can have it a little bit in pre-cock safely, and then so it's just taking it a little bit and dropping it down, and that's what gives it that nice 1911 style, as close to 1911 as you can get, click. Now that's only the first shot. After the first shot, for the most part, the triggers that I'm building when someone wants them they're mimicking about a 1911. So those of you that have those and can attest to that, it's just snap, 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 and the resets are about a 16th. You can really get 1911s dialed in unbelievably because of the system. But with with a striker fired system, there has to be a little bit of movement there. But in order to do it correctly, if you get the springs right, it's not going to feel like movement. It is going to feel more like pressure. I know in some of my other videos I talk about pressure versus travel, but I'm not resting on my coattails. I'm consistently trying to innovate here. So one of the things I've been able to do is to really mimic that feeling with the Glock trigger, consistently, predictably, reliably, safely, and that's the game right there. For the people that have it and shoot it, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So when people talk about Gen 3s and Gen 4s, I like them both for what I really like the Gen 3s. I'll be quite honest, if you want to know my opinion, just because it's a tried and true system. There was a couple changes early on with their bars. That's when they decided to put this little thing in here. They used to just have a let me show you. They used to just have this used to be flat. They put that little bend right in there to grab, and a little cut right there to grab the trigger tab safety. I mean the trigger spring better, which is another thing. You guys really got to pay attention when you're putting that in. Even with me, I'm putting them in. I'm going, what the? I'll pull the trigger. I'll be like, something's off, and then I'll look, and that spring will be hanging on the side. So really make sure, look down in there that trigger spring is horizontal and it was put in like an S. Those are the big things, and I'm sure a lot of you know that already. That's the way the trigger spring is put in. And also, if you, and these are empty guns, so I have a hard time showing these, but anyway, they're empty. If you put your hand right here on a Gen 3 and a Gen 4, you're going to feel, on the ported side, on the ejector side, and squeeze right here, you will feel right in here that bar edging up against this bar right here, edging up against the polymer. It's right there. So this is what I'm talking about. And when you do this, you're going to be like, holy shit, because not a lot of people do it, but I'm putting pressure right here with this hand. And then when I squeeze the bar, right back here where the actual thing that says, a good indicator is that little writing right there. Right there. So my hand's going about right here. My fingers are going here. And then when you squeeze, you can really feel that bar push up against your push up against these fingers. It's amazing. So what's happening is, because of the tension at the sear, this this part right here is bucking up, backing out. What you're actually feeling, and I'll use a firing pin as the plug. What you're feeling is this part right here pushing out against the outside wall of the gun. And that's why they put the little dot in there, which would be right here, because instead of that happening, it's going to hit the slide. It's going to hit the slide right here on the inside these rails. Not on the rail actually, but on the wall. And sometimes you can usually see it, a little mark. Oh, this is Gen 3, so you're not going to see it. But let's get the Gen 4 out. And so same thing with this. If I put my hand right here and squeeze, I'm going to feel, and I wonder if I can get this so you can actually see it. Nah, that's too hard. Let me try it again. Take a look where it says in Austria. Nah. So your hand is going to be right there, right about there, and you're going to squeeze. And as you're doing that, you're going to be able to feel these triggers so tasty, they're just going off anyway. Just feel right there. You're going to feel a little bit of a bump. And once again, you're going to know it's going to be, and that's because in this gun, as I was switching stuff around, this is a Gen 3 bar. If it was a Gen 4 bar, I would still feel it anyway. But how you like that stippling right there? That's low-key tactical. And this slide too. Hell yes. You know how they do. You know how us Florida boys do. Low-key, man. Shout out to them, man. They got some great shit going on. Anyway, so the Gen 3, Gen 4 thing is a little bit more complicated from a trigger building aspect than one would think. It's not even that complicated, but there are things that need to be figured out. You know, basically, when the Gen 4s first came out, man, it was like, what the? Because they put a different connector in there, a dot connector, and the 3.5s weren't working, and everyone was looking at that dot, man, and looking at that ramp, you know, the dot on the vertical extension, and that had nothing to do with it. And if you investigate more, you know, of course, you know, those people that found out, you know, what needed to be modified in order to get it to act more like a Gen 3, because everyone was so used to the Gen 3s, but now there's been enough Gen 4s out there. The Gen 4s actually break quicker than the Gen 3s sometimes. But, you know, when you're understanding that, like a lot of Gen 4s, I'll put a standard connector in. Now that's the difference there. Like, so connectors can be used across the board, but trigger bars should not be, and that's basically what they'll tell you. And you know what Glock tells you is, you know, you can take that however you want it. You know, like Arnold Schwarzenegger says, break the rules. You know, don't break the laws, but a true maverick will break the rules. So you can break those rules, but you know, if you're going to do that, you better know why you're doing it. And so, you know, just to blindly throw a Gen 3 bar in a Gen 4 gun, and then possibly deal with some later issues, you know, it makes them feel like, a lot of guys that like the real light trigger, spongy kind of feeling trigger pulls, they like the Gen 3 bars and the Gen 4, because you're going to still get that kind of like really rolly, kind of spongy break. A lot of guys that are shooting tactical, when they put that 3.5 connector in it, they're like, oh, you know, it's really painfully spongy for them. So I'm gonna put these up one more time because I love it. I love that I figured this out right on the video, not to really give it all away, but pick a card, any card. Those three are completely different. And like I said, one's for the big gun, and one's a Gen 3 and one's a Gen 4 new bar, which is a 3600 bar. So that's kind of like what I have to say about Gen 3s and Gen 4s. I could tell you the whole background on why they changed things, because I kind of know that, but that's kind of like I don't know, I don't think it's the most exciting story. So anyway, I'm going to end with this. I'm just going to end with that. All right, anyway, Johnny Gluck, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know I have a lot of people always asking about that, so I wanted to clarify some of the things with it, and I hope you enjoyed it. And maybe if you email me in there, we can, or leave a message, leave a reply, you can tell me which bar is which, and I'll confirm it for you. Or maybe I won't. Keep it a mystery. All right, we'll see y'all. Take care.